Shalom, I am Dr. Ann Davis with Bible Interact, and this is the beginning of a series of short teachings that I'm going to do on how to think Hebrew. In this beginning session, I'm encouraging you to immerse yourself in the ancient world, because learning to think Hebrew, even if you don't know Hebrew, is very different from the way we think and act in our modern Western world. So you must become familiar with how the people of ancient Israel lived and thought and acted. I'm going to give you 5 principles for immersing yourself in the ancient world. First, you must understand that the people in ancient Israel did not have books like we did. The holy writings were written on scrolls by hand, very laboriously, and there were very few available. The common people didn't have those scrolls. They listened and they memorized. Now, another thing you have to understand is that the only thing they learned were the holy writings. They didn't have other books and philosophers and things like that. They had just one thing to learn, and that was the holy writings. And as I've said, they didn't read, but they listened and memorized, and that's important because they memorized not verse by verse like we do, they memorized blocks of scripture. And that's going to become important when you see a quotation in the New Testament. It kicks off the whole block. So you have to be able to go back and identify the block that would pop up in the minds of the people of ancient Israel. Now, the second principle is that in ancient Israel, people were taught to be like the master. So the teacher would give instruction, but he had to walk in that instruction. He had to demonstrate what he was teaching. And we read that in Scripture. A disciple is not above his teacher, nor a slave above his master. It is enough for the disciple that he become like his teacher. The third principle is that you have to be familiar with the land. And I know some of you have been to Israel, but if you have not walked the land of Israel, you don't really know the geography well. You're going to need a Bible atlas. I have a verse here that I love. Arise, walk about the land through its length and breadth, for I will give it to you. The fourth principle is that you need to learn how to uncover mysteries. There are mysteries in Scripture. They're deep down and they can be uncovered. Yeshua is talking to his disciples, and he says, "To you it has been granted to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven." That's to you disciples. But to them, and he's pointing out to the crowd who had come to hear him speak, it has not been granted. Now we can align that with all Christians today are in the crowd. I mean, not all Christians are dedicated disciples wanting to learn and grow closer to God. In order to get to that depth of meaning, you have to listen for anything unusual. We offer a course on ancient Hebraic methods of searching the scriptures, which you can find on our website, BibleInteract.com. And it's an online course. You take it at your own pace, and it's essential. If you're going to think Hebrew, you've got to get this course. And finally, the fifth principle is to let your curiosity lead you to these things. Something strange, a synonym, a metaphor, something strange that draws your curiosity. And I'm just going to give you one example. The eyes of Adam and Eve were opened and they knew they were naked. What pulls you in? Well, first of all, this same verse is repeated again shortly after, and any repetition is going to catch your ear, would have caught the ear of the people of ancient Israel. What does naked symbolize? Naked means without sin. You're pure, you're righteous, you're holy without sin. And before sin entered, Adam and Eve were naked, meaning symbolically without sin. And that's where God is leading us now, to return to this situation status of being without sin so that we can come into his presence. So, what have we learned? First, to think Hebrew, even if you don't know Hebrew, you must be immersed with the people of ancient Israel in their way of living and thinking and acting. Next, know that God has placed mysteries in his word that can be discovered by dedicated servants who know how to uncover them. Be like Curious George. Let your curiosity lead you to key words and then use a concordance to learn the meaning of that word. And finally, listen for anything unusual, because it may be a clue to deeper meaning, and you need to be able to go in and uncover that depth of meaning. So I wish you shalom now, and I hope that you will continue to listen to these videos on how to think Hebrew. Shalom.